Hi everyone, I'm here to introduce Mukasa Ronald as he elaborates more about attitude. Attitude makes 100% of a person's life, and it's one of the topics that you shouldn't miss. Enjoy as you listen.
The greatest disability in life is not physical disability, but poor attitude. Attitude refers to an established way of thinking. It can also be defined as a feeling typically reflected in one's behavior. Psychologists define it as a learned tendency to evaluate things in a certain way. According to Churchill, who was the Prime Minister of UK, attitude is the smallest thing that can make the biggest difference in one's life. He continued to say that we don't see things as they are, but we see them as we are. When we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. In other words, a person can change his entire life by merely changing his attitude. Because whenever a person changes the way he looks at things, his life totally changes. So the greatest disability in life is not physical disability, but poor attitude. Because there is nothing wrong that can never be put right by a person with a positive attitude. More to the point, there's nothing right that can ever fail a person with poor attitude to see it wrong. According to Norman Vincent, an American Protestant preacher, any fact facing a person is not as important as his attitude towards it. And the way a person looks at a problem may become a bigger problem than a problem itself. So it's not what happens to a person that matters most, but what he thinks about it. A person may not be able to control the circumstances around him, but he can be able to control the way he thinks about it. What a person thinks means a lot than any other thing in his life. It means a lot than the money he earns, his family background, and the challenges he goes through. A person's attitude towards life also determines life's attitude towards him. It can either be his best friend or worst enemy. For example, if a person has a positive attitude, then life will be full of positive questions and answers. And this is the foundation of living a happy life. But if he has a negative attitude, his life will be full of unconstructive questions and answers. And this is the foundation of living a miserable life. In life, something can only be wrong or right depending on the way a person thinks. In the same regard, if a person fails to control his attitude, then nothing will seem to be right in his life. Different people can look at the same thing and see completely different things. What brings this about? One's attitude towards what he looks at. A case in a point. A person with a positive attitude may look at a problem and see a seed of solution in it. And a person with a negative attitude may look at the same problem and see another problem in it. In this matter, it's good to know that negative attitude cannot solve any problem, but it makes a problem to become bigger than itself. A positive attitude may also not solve every problem, but it makes solving any problem more of a pleasant experience. Attitude is also known as the eye of the soul. If it is negative, then a person will see all things in an obstructive way, and this will not only become a big problem to him, but even to other people around him. On the contrary, if it's positive, then he will see all things in a constructive way, and this will not only be a solution to his problems, but also to other people's problems. A person's attitude towards life also determines his altitude in life. The higher a person goes in life is determined by the way he looks at things. This is why it's always believed that a person's life is what his thoughts make it. No one in life can ever do things beyond the level of his thinking power. Whatever we do in life depends on the way we think. Furthermore, a person's attitude is also a key factor in determining his performance in different aspects of life. And this plays a big role in determining his success or failure in life. The way a person thinks about something can make him to be defeated before he fails or successful before he succeeds. According to Thomas Jefferson, the third president of USA, nothing really can stop a man with the right attitude from reaching his destiny. And nothing wrong on the earth can stop a man with incorrect attitude from reaching a wrong destiny. Here he made that a person with a right attitude possesses a lot of power to the extent that no one can stop him from succeeding. On the other hand, a person with a negative attitude also possesses a lot of power of being defeated in life, to the extent that no one may be able to help him if he does not help himself by changing his mindset. In life, the secret of having a bright future is to think right. When a person thinks right, then he will speak right. And when he speaks right, then he will act in the right way. When he acts in the right way, he will feel good about himself, and then other people will also feel good about him. And when other people feel good about him, this will also make them feel good about themselves. In supplementary words, a positive attitude does not only make a person to feel good about himself, but also makes others to feel good about him. And this as well makes others to feel good about themselves. So, a person's attitude can not only affect him, but also affects other people around him. Nevertheless, a person's attitude also determines how much and the kind of respect others will have for him. A person with a positive attitude will always be respected by others, and a person with negative attitude will always command no respect from others. Let us not overlook the fact that every person has ability to think right no matter what happens in his life. It is his choice to think right, because whenever a person thinks right, all things will seem to be right. Whenever a person thinks wrong and dwells on what is wrong, then nothing will seem to be right, and he will command no respect from others. Affirmative thinking helps a person to move in the right direction, and this makes his life to move forward. But when he decides to think wrong, this pushes him backward and makes his life move in the wrong direction. Whatever a person thinks in his heart, whether good or bad, this draws many things to him, which may either be good or bad. Let us capture these examples. A loving person will always find a loving world, and a hostile person will always find a hostile world. A person with a positive attitude will always find many other people with the helpful thoughts, and a person with a negative attitude will always find many people with no ready to give a hand attitude. A person with a positive attitude will always find everything beautiful and good, easy and simple, and a person with a negative attitude will always find everything unattractive and bad, hard and difficult. A person with a positive attitude will find questions and their answers, and a person with a negative attitude will only find questions without answers. So, what makes everything good or bad, ugly or beautiful, simple or hard, easy or difficult? Nothing else apart from a person's attitude towards what he looks at. The moment a person changes his attitude, his entire life changes. This is possible because whenever a person changes the way he looks at things, even the things he looks at change. The power to change the circumstance or things is found in you, known things. Therefore, things can never change unless we take initiatives to change our minds in the way we want them to change. Therefore, it does not require a lot of time for a person to change his life. Even 1 minute can be enough for that person to change his entire life from bottom to up when he changes his mindset. In most cases, a person may not be able to change the circumstances around him, but he may be able to change his mindset. Then the circumstance changes, because whenever we change, things around us also change. Therefore, the power to change things is found in our mindset. Whenever we change the way we look at things, even the things we look at also begin to change. Let us take these examples. A sailor on the sea can't change the direction of the wind, but he can only change the direction of his ship so as to reach his destiny. Therefore, if there's something you don't like in life and you cannot change it, then just change your mindset. Then things will change the way you want them. A person in life spends 100% of his time with himself. In other words, a person will always be with himself everywhere. Even when he's with others, he will still be with himself. When he's alone, he will be with himself. When he wakes up in the morning, he will be with himself. When he's lying on the bed at night, he will be with himself. Therefore, the only way a person can live at peace with himself is to think right. Because whenever a person develops a negative attitude, this does not only become a problem to him, but even to other people around him. When a person thinks right, this does not only add value to his life, but also adds value to other people's lives. A person with a negative attitude is also good at blaming others or situations. However, it is very clear that when a person becomes good at blaming others, he will never be good at anything else apart from that. For instance, when a person begins to look for negative things about someone, he will never find anything good about him. We need to know that blaming is also a game which has no rules. When a person becomes good at blaming others, he will never find anything good about them. Because in a game without rules, a person has no limitation. This means that when a person begins to look for negative things about others, he will get as many faults as possible about them. In life, a person to be happy, it does not depend on the possessions of wealth he has, but the attitude he possesses. Therefore, happiness does not depend on external setting, but our mental attitude. For instance, a person with a negative attitude will always find it hard to be happier than others, even when others are going through hard situations than him. But a person with a positive attitude will always find it easy to be happier than others, even when he goes through hard situations than others. So the only person who can pull you down is yourself. It's not what you are going through, it's not what you are doing, it's not where you are, it's not what you are that makes you happy, but your mindset about whatever situation you go through, but what you think about it. It was also discovered that people with negative attitude are always unhappy because such people take a lot of time to think about what others think about them rather than focusing on what they have to do. On the other hand, people with a positive attitude are always happier than others because such people take most of their time thinking about what they can do rather than what others think about them. The most powerful control a person can ever attain in life is to be in control of his mind. This is also known as a positive change in one's life. This comes through internal understanding and acceptance at the time when a person begins to think right. For example, a person may go through a certain situation simply because of his negative attitude. But when he gains internal understanding and acceptance through changing his mindset, then the situation changes for better. This comes because whenever a person changes his mind, even the outer aspect of his life change. This is possible because a man is only the creature that can reshape and remold itself by changing only his mindset. In the world today, many people are misled to the extent that everyone would rather undertake what he sees others doing instead of doing what he has to do. This is what causes most people to waste who they are because of imitating what others are doing. Although the ability to discover one's true ability may seem to be difficult, it just requires only the ability to think right. Whenever a person thinks right, he gets power to think about himself, and when a person is able to think about himself, it becomes very easy for the person to know what he's supposed to do, what he's able to do, and when a person thinks about himself, it becomes very easy for that person to discover who he is. And it's always believed that the greatest magic in the world is to think right. It is through this that a person's ability can be discovered by himself or others. Take this illustration. If a person is just following the crowd will never follow him. But when he stands up, speaks up for the right cause, then this enables him to discover his true ability and also to be discovered by others. In life, people tend to follow those who have discovered their true abilities. In other words, people tend to follow those who have ability to stand up and speak out for the right cause, not those who don't know who they are. Therefore, self-discovery requires right attitude and determination, and this is the true foundation of influencing oneself and others in the right direction. Although a person's ability can determine what he can do, but his attitude determines how far he goes with it in life. This means that it's not a person's ability but his attitude that determines how far he will go with whatever he does or plans to do in life. For instance, a person who has an attitude of fearing to lose the sight of the soul will never cross the ocean. It's also good to know that nothing will ever be interesting and possible if a person has negative attitude towards it. So, the only way to go far in life is to think right. Even if one's background determines where he is now, it can never determine where he's going unless a person refuses to change his mindset. Even the present situation itself, it is not enough to determine where a person is going, but it can only determine where he begins from. So, when a person begins from where he is today and uses what he has with the right attitude, this will even make the impossible to be broken into possibilities. In life, a person has choice to make, but the best choice is to think right with whatever you are and whatever you have today. Finally, let us not forget that the only way we can live is by growing, and the only way we can grow is by changing, and the only way we can change is by learning. Therefore, let us learn this. Life is too short to waste any time wondering what other people think about you. In fact, if they had better things going on in their lives, they would not have any time to sit and talk about you. Just recognize that it's your attitude that can help you to make a difference in your life, not other people's attitude towards you. Other people may have negative attitude towards you, but this can never have any effect on the real person you are or the real person you want to be unless you buy it. That's why Napoleon Bonaparte once stated that, "I can never let anyone to move in my mind with that feet." This meant that he was ready to move on, regardless of what other people thought about him. Some of the quotation is about attitude. Sometimes the only difference between bad days and good days is your attitude. When you think right, you tend to possess a lot of power with few stronger statements to defend yourself. But when you have wrong attitude, you tend to possess less power with many statements to defend yourself. Napoleon Hill. When you pray for someone, you tend to modify your personal attitude towards him. Steve Jobs. If you don't get what you want, think of also of the things you have and you do not ask for them. William James. Every person has a burden, but what counts is how he carries it. President Yoweri Museveni. A strong positive attitude will create more miracles than any strong drug. Napoleon Hill. Reject your sense of injury, then the injuries will disappear. Les Brown. Life is what your thoughts make it. Napoleon Hill. Always try to be a better person than you were yesterday. Steve Jobs. Everything may not be good, but there is something good in everything. Jim Rohn. Blessed is he who expects nothing, he will never be disappointed. George Donald. To be upset over what you don't have wastes what you have. Cain Case. There is nothing so easy, because everything easy becomes difficult when you do it reluctantly. Steve Jobs. The tongue weighs practically nothing, but few people can hold it. Steve Jobs. If you can't understand my silence, how can you understand my words? William James. The weakness of the attitude becomes the weakness of the character. William James. The attitude is more than facts. No man can stop a person with the right attitude to achieve his goals, because positive attitude makes dreams come true. Thank you so much for listening. This is Ronald Mukasa. May God bless you so much.
That was Ronald Mukasa. For more inspirational words, get them at Mukasa Ronnie Inspirational page on Facebook or email mukasa.ronald@yahoo.com. Thank you.